Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
What's going on, Mets fans? And I'm going to be completely straight with you right from the start. This video is going to make some people uncomfortable. Some of you are going to think I'm being too dramatic. Some of you are going to say I'm overreacting. But what I'm about to ask is a question that needs to be asked, and it needs to be asked loudly. Is David Stearns about to get fired? Not in 3 years, not eventually. I'm talking about right now, in the near future, before this gets any worse. Hit that like button if you think Steve Cohen is running out of patience, and stick with me because I'm going to lay out exactly why Stearns' job security is way more precarious than people realize. Let's start with the obvious. David Stearns has been a complete disaster since taking over as president of baseball operations. And I'm not just talking about one or two mistakes. I'm talking about a systematic failure to execute on every major decision he's faced. Pete Alonso, gone without an offer. Edwin Díaz, lost to the Dodgers over pocket change. Brandon Nimmo, traded away. The roster is objectively worse than it was at the end of last season. The fan base is furious. The media is starting to turn on him. And all of this is happening with the richest owner in baseball writing blank checks. Now, if this were any other organization, if this were a small market team with limited resources, maybe you could argue that Stearns needs more time. Maybe you could say he's implementing a long-term vision and we need to be patient. But this is the New York Mets with Steve Cohen as the owner. And Steve Cohen is not a patient man. He didn't become a billionaire by tolerating failure and hoping things get better eventually. He's a guy who makes quick decisions when something isn't working. He cuts his losses. He moves on. And right now he's watching his president of baseball operations turn his franchise into a laughingstock. Here's what people need to understand about Steve Cohen. He bought the Mets to win championships, not to compete, not to be respectable, to win. He's made that crystal clear from day one. He's told the fans he's willing to spend whatever it takes. He's promised to build a dynasty. He's committed to making the Mets the premier organization in baseball. And then he hired David Stearns to execute that vision. And Stearns is doing the complete opposite. Stearns is operating like he's running the Tampa Bay Rays. He's being conservative with money that doesn't need to be conserved. He's letting star players walk over small financial gaps. He's prioritizing long-term sustainability over short-term success, even though Cohen has made it clear he wants to win now. There is a fundamental disconnect between what the owner wants and what the president of baseball operations is delivering. And in any business, when there's that kind of disconnect, someone gets fired. Now, I'm not saying Cohen is going to fire Stearns tomorrow. I'm not saying he's already made up his mind. But I am saying that the pressure is building. The mistakes are piling up, and there are very realistic scenarios where Stearns doesn't make it through 2025 in this role. Let me walk you through what those scenarios look like. Scenario 1, the Mets have a terrible start to the season. If they're 10 games under 500 by Memorial Day, if the roster construction is clearly not working, if fans are booing at Citi Field, Steve Cohen is not going to sit around and wait for things to improve. He's going to make a change. He's going to fire Stearns and bring in someone who can salvage the season. Because Cohen didn't buy this team to watch them struggle in fourth place while he gets roasted by the media and the fan base. Scenario 2. More information comes out about how badly Stearns has mismanaged player relationships. We already know about Pete Alonso and Edwin Díaz, but what if there are more stories? What if other players or coaches come forward with examples of poor communication and dysfunction? What if the narrative becomes that nobody wants to play for the Mets because the front office treats everyone poorly? That kind of reputational damage could force Cohen's hand, even if the on-field results aren't catastrophic. Scenario 3, the Mets miss the playoffs. If this roster that Stearns assembled isn't good enough to make the postseason, if they finish third or fourth in the division, Cohen is going to look at the situation and ask himself why he's paying a president of baseball operations who can't build a competitive team despite having unlimited resources. And he's not going to like the answer. Missing the playoffs when you have Steve Cohen's money is unacceptable, and someone is going to have to take the fall for that. Now, here's what makes Stearns' situation even more precarious. There are already whispers in the industry that Cohen is frustrated. Nothing confirmed, nothing on the record. But people who are connected to the organization are saying that Cohen expected more this offseason. He expected the Mets to be aggressive. He expected them to make splashes in free agency. He expected his financial advantages to actually be used. And instead, Stearns has been conservative and methodical and careful, which in practice means the team is getting worse while competitors are getting better. And Cohen is watching the Dodgers add talent. He's watching the Yankees improve. He's watching teams with less money than him be more aggressive and more successful. That's got to be eating at him, because he knows he has the resources to compete with anyone. He knows he should be able to outspend and out-talent every other team in baseball, but his front office won't let him do it. Let me also point out that firing Stearns wouldn't be unprecedented for this organization. The Mets have gone through multiple front office regimes in recent years. Brodie Van Wagenen lasted exactly 2 years before getting fired. Sandy Alderson came and went multiple times in different roles. This franchise has shown it's willing to make changes quickly when things aren't working. There's no reason to think Stearns would be immune from that same treatment if the results continue to be this bad. And here's something else to consider. The market for top baseball executives is always active. If Cohen decides to move on from Stearns, he's not going to struggle to find a replacement. There are smart baseball people all over the league who would jump at the opportunity to run the Mets with unlimited resources, people who actually understand how to operate in a big market, people who know how to be aggressive in free agency, people who won't squander the competitive advantages that come with having the richest owner in sports. Cohen could pick up the phone right now and have conversations with some of the best executives in baseball, people who are currently in other organizations but would leave for the chance to build a winner in New York with a blank check. The talent is out there. The question is just when Cohen decides he's seen enough from Stearns and wants to make a move. Now, what would actually save Stearns' job at this point? What would keep him employed? First, he needs to make some significant moves before the season starts. He needs to add impact players. He needs to show the fan base and Steve Cohen that he's actually trying to win. If the roster going into opening day looks like this, if it's objectively worse than last year, that's a problem. He needs to fix that. Second, the team needs to perform next season, not just make the playoffs, but actually compete for a championship. Anything less than winning the division or making a deep playoff run is going to be seen as a failure, because with Steve Cohen's resources, with the talent that was available this offseason, there's no excuse for mediocrity. Third, Stearns needs to fix his communication issues and start rebuilding relationships in the industry. He needs to show that he understands the human element of baseball matters. He needs to prove that he can adapt to operating in New York instead of just applying his Milwaukee approach to a completely different environment. But here's the thing. I'm not confident Stearns can do any of those things. Based on everything we've seen, he is who he is. He's a small market executive with a small market mentality. He doesn't communicate well with players. He doesn't adapt his approach based on circumstances. He just keeps doing what worked in Milwaukee, even though it's clearly not working here. And if that doesn't change, if we go into next season with this roster and struggle, Steve Cohen is going to have a decision to make. Does he give Stearns more time to figure it out, or does he cut his losses and bring in someone who can actually maximize the resources available? Because every year that gets wasted with the wrong person in charge is a year that the championship window closes a little bit more. I genuinely believe that David Stearns is on thin ice right now. I think one bad season, one more major controversy, one more example of him destroying player relationships, and he's done. Cohen is not going to tolerate ongoing failure when he's giving his front office every resource they could possibly need to succeed. So here's what I want from you in the comments. Do you think Stearns should be fired right now? Do you think he'll make it through the 2025 season? What would it take for Cohen to pull the plug? Because I'm telling you, the pressure is mounting, the mistakes are piling up, and unless something changes dramatically, I think we're going to be talking about a front office change sooner rather than later. Hit that subscribe button if you want to stay updated on this situation as it develops. Drop your honest thoughts below, and I'll see you in the next video where we continue covering the dysfunction at the top of this organization and holding people accountable for their decisions.